Last week, the Expo team announced SDK 56 beta. In today's video, I'm gonna break down all you need to know about the new version, new APIs, and I'm gonna show you some pretty cool UI demos so you actually know what I'm talking about. Let's get into it. If you use Expo Go to develop your applications, you might be aware that Expo Go from the App Store does not support Expo SDK 55, and now we are moving to SDK 56, and it won't support SDK 56 as well, because as of May 4th, a version of Expo Go for SDK 55 is still waiting for approval on the App Store. The TLDR here is that Apple has become very strict regarding apps that execute code and change the functionality within the application. So Expo is working on upgrading Expo Go so that it aligns with the new rules from Apple, and hopefully it should land for SDK 56, because that's really, Expo Go is very important for beginners. So hopefully we can see it soon. Even though you cannot download it from the App Store, you can still download Expo Go from expo.dev/go. So if you come here, you can actually download directly the APK and install it on your real Android device or in an emulator. You can do the same for iOS by joining the test flight beta for SDK 56. But personally, what I do is just use a development build. In case you don't know what I'm talking about with development builds and installing Expo Go, don't worry, check out my course. I added a full section for beginners that takes you from your first steps. It explains what is Expo Go and everything. Check it out, it's completely free, no ads, no weird stuff. The link is in the description. Moving on, Expo UI is now ready for production. Finally, as of Expo SDK 56, the Jetpack Compose for Android and SwiftUI iOS APIs in Expo UI are stable, and they have even added Expo UI to the default create-expo app template. I feel like this is one of those inflection points where you're gonna look back at it and you're gonna remember, I remember when we used to create Expo apps without Expo UI and everything is going to change. So this is actually a huge change that not many React Native developers are caring too much, I would say. Expo UI definitely unlocks a lot of possibilities. So it's cool that it's going to be available in the default template, and of course it's going to be available in Expo Go, and Expo UI comes with universal components. Now, not all the components are already available, but you can see what are the next steps for Expo and where they are taking Expo UI. This is going to be a great experience for developers because you need to write the component just once and it's going to work on Android and iOS. Now, at the time, not all the components are available yet. I actually went ahead and compiled the official Expo application that the Expo team uses for developing Expo UI. And I'm going to show you the list of Expo UI universal components. As you can see here on the left, I have Expo UI on the web. This is my browser, and then this is my Android emulator. I'm gonna press on universal. To be honest, I couldn't make the application work on iOS, but I'm still gonna show you an example of Platano, which is our latest template. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I have an AI tattoo application, which at the time that I'm recording this video, it's making close to $800 in monthly recurrent revenue. And I quickly realized that there are so many possibilities with Nano Banana wrappers, and I decided to create this template. And I'm also excited to show you some of the use cases from the community. Adorn AI, it's a hairstyle try-on application that was shipped super quickly to the App Store using Platano. It comes with payments, it comes with everything that you need to ship. Super exciting if you're looking into, just see how the best practices look like, how Expo UI in practice looks like for a real application. Check out the template. I'm going to leave the link in the description. The Expo UI components that are universal at the time are bottom sheet, button, checkbox, column, flex group, icon, row, scroll view, slider, spacer, switch, text, and text inputs. Not a lot of flexibility at the moment, if you ask me, but it's pretty cool that the bottom sheets work really nicely on web, right? Let's take a look at the bottom sheet on Android. This is how it looks. Of course, on iOS, will look way better. So a bottom sheet here would look something like this. So really nice. You get the liquid glass effect on iOS 26, and if you want like a solid color, you can also apply it as well. Another example that I wanted to show you here is the settings screen. This is fully using Expo UI, SwiftUI. and this is just a native SwiftUI view. Everything that you see here, it's fully native. I didn't use any React Native views except for this preview. This is actually React Native view with, you know, the style and all that. And this is another pretty powerful feature from Expo UI. It allows you to host React Native views within SwiftUI views. And when you're using Expo UI and Jetpack Compose, you don't need to worry about dark mode because it's going to be handled for you automatically with the system colors. So personally, I just like to use the system colors for my applications. I think it looks very elegant. It feels more native. Just one important detail to flag here is that the web APIs are still experimental and likely to change, but Android and iOS is stable. Moving on, Expo UI keeps dropping bombs. I'm very bullish on Expo UI, so much that I'm actually creating a new section in my course on Expo UI where I'm going to teach you everything that you need to know. And on top of that, guys, another very important thing that Expo introduced, apart from the ability to create your own custom views and modifiers, is that they now have deep integration with React Native Worklets. So they created a new hook called NativeState, and I would highly recommend that you go to the platform, check the blog, and I actually released a new blog on understanding useNativeState in Expo UI. Basically allows you to don't have to control your inputs or forms, but instead handle all that state and sync with the native view on the native side instead of using a regular useState with React. Because if you do that, you are gonna end up blocking the jest thread. As you can see in this example, it looks, you can see how the cursor is like, you cannot move. The reason for that is because we're actually passing a property. We're trying to control the input, and each time that the text field changes or the text new input, we get a new event into React State, and that sets a new prop to the same component. But if you use useNativeState, you can see here I was typing as fast as I could, and I wasn't able to see it, you know, break or lag anything. And that is because we're using useNativeState. With the new useNativeState in Expo UI, what we are doing is just basically remove the jest thread completely. We don't care about what's happening between the native UI or text input and the state of the user text that is typing, right? So you can only read that when you need. So for example, when you submit the form or submit a prompt, and you know, this is just a better performance, I would highly recommend that you check out this blog. The link is in the description in case you want to learn more about NativeState. Moving on, another banger from Expo UI. Expo UI is focused on the native primitives, and some of those primitives overlap with popular community libraries. So to make migration easier and reduce library fragmentation, SDK 56 introduces a drop-in replacement for several common community packages. So if you're using Daytime Picker from the community, you can just replace that from Expo UI. You can remove an extra package from your application. And you can do that for segment control, native picker, daytime picker, slider, masked view, and Gore Home bottom sheet. Honestly, this is great. You know, some of the React Native community packages are not very well maintained. And you know, you can trust that Expo is going to keep maintaining and improving Expo UI in the future, and this also removes packages and extra dependencies from your application, which can cause your application to break when you try to upgrade. In other news, faster builds with precompiled Expo packages. So Expo is actively precompiling some of the most popular packages, and what this does under the hood is that it makes compiling your application faster. On Expo SDK 56, this is available by default, but in case you don't want to use it, you can also pass the Expo use precompile module, set that to 0. Now we get, in my opinion, to the second most important change in Expo SDK 56, and that is inline modules. Expo modules, you know, it's an API that allows you to dive into the native world super easily. But until now, writing Expo modules, you know, it's a great experience, but it requires a lot of boilerplate, a lot of setup. You need to create your module inside your folder, make sure that everything is linking correctly. You need to export the module so that you can import it in your components. And you know, it's a lot of friction. But now Expo is introducing inline modules. What this allows you is that you can create modules directly within your project structure alongside your JavaScript and TypeScript code. Let's take a quick look at the tutorial on how to create an inline module. Basically, you need to just go to the app.json and set the experiment inline modules object and pass the folder where you are going to be creating your module. Then pre-build your application and create an inline module. So for Android, it would look something like this. If you notice, we are inside the app folder and you can just go ahead and create a Kotlin file right there for no reason, and it's going to work. This is amazing. You don't need to create a new folder. You don't need to run any commands. Just create your native code and boom. And for iOS, you can do the same. First inline module.swift. This is Swift. And then inside the folder app. And then you can use it directly by calling require module, pass the name of your module, and boom, use it. I mean, how cool is this? This is amazing. I'm actually going to be adding as well a lesson in my React Native course about this. Super exciting. Speaking of creating Expo modules, they actually revamped the create-expo modules to be more stable and richer in features. They have now a skill for agents to create Expo modules. This is nice. Apart from that, Expo modules now it's faster. They have improved their runtime performance, and we can see here some gains. SDK 55 versus SDK 56. It's faster. For example, activity on create, it's 1.7x faster, time to interactive 1.5. This is for Android, so that's cool. Expo SDK 56 now comes with React Native 85 and React 19.2. This means that you can take advantage of what's new in those versions. For example, Hermes v1 is the default now as the JavaScript engine in your React Native application. There's a new animation backend that was introduced in React Native 85, which introduces a new animation backend designed to better align with the new architecture and improving consistency and performance of animations across the platform. Another important detail here is that React Native 85 now drops support for end-of-life Node.js versions and releases before v20. Moving on, widgets for iOS are now promoted to stable. Expo widgets is now a thing. You can create widgets for your application using the following command: npx expo install expo widgets, and then you can configure your app.json like this and how you can use it to create the UI. So it's pretty simple. It actually uses Expo UI because, you know, at the end of the day, that is SwiftUI. So you can just use the sweet JSX syntax to create a widget. That is amazing. Moving on to more big news, Expo Router no longer depends on React Navigation. Most of the code imported directly from React Navigation packages will no longer work out of the box alongside Expo Router. This is pretty big news because all this time Expo Router has been based on React Navigation, and that's no longer the case. The main reason for why this happened is because when there was an issue or bug in Expo Router, people were opening issues in React Navigation repo, and you know, it's different teams, they are not aligned. And when something broke in React Navigation, people were opening issues in Expo Router repo, and you know, it's hard to sync. So just by forking React Navigation, and you can fix it directly if you are the maintainer of Expo Router, and you can fix your own things directly in React Navigation. I think that's the main reason why this is happening. To upgrade to Expo SDK 56, you're gonna need to run a code mode or to handle most of the migration automatically. This is pretty nice. I actually ran this on my AI Tattoo application and it worked. So new features on Expo Router, they have added experimental support for a toolbar on Android. So you can try it using the same API available on iOS, stack.toolbar. And the toolbar allows you to place items at the top right, left, or even bottom. So this button here, new, it's actually a toolbar that can be placed at the bottom of the screen as well. And in collaboration with React Native Screens, we've also introduced experimental support for a new version of the native stack, Stack B5, including initial support for material side headers and predictive back gesture. This is cool. Finally, Android is getting some love. Other notable changes, Expo Audio now has a use audio stream hook for real-time microphone buffer access and live stream improvements. For example, you can use Is Live Stream for lock screen option on iOS. That's pretty nice. Expo Haptics now supports haptics on web for Safari. That's pretty nice. Deprecations, Expo vector icons will be deprecated by React Native vector icons. So if you're using Expo vector icons, just be aware of that. And the original Expo calendar, Expo contacts, and Expo media library APIs are now superseded by the redesigned versions now promoted to stable. The original APIs are now deprecated. Another important detail, and I actually encountered this issue when I was operating my AI Tattoo application, is that the iOS deployment target now it's gonna be 16.4. Previously was 15.1. This is good, but you might encounter some issues if some of the native packages that you're using for iOS are still using 15.1. So the packages need to bump that as well. Or you can write a custom plugin that updates the target for all the packages in your application. That's it for this quick video. I hope you like it. I hope you learned something new. Don't forget to check out the course. Let us know if you want to ship a real application quickly with best practices built in. And if you want to keep learning more about Expo and building applications, check out this other video. I'll see you there.